Good morning. It's not even 7. Oops. Yeah, we gotta wait a little while. Oh, people's gonna yell at me. It's not 7, Michelle. Well, I hope if it's a false alarm, but I think I'll get my monthly again. I knew I was gonna get it twice this month, but not right away because I got it right at the beginning of the month, and this is day only 18, 10 days early. Because I know for a fact, if I get it at the really beginning of the month, and I skipped the month before, I definitely gonna get it twice as much. Oh boy, I'm on a fast until lunch because what I ate for supper last night. I gotta start documenting when I get my monthly. I remember one time mentioned I was late. I was at work. But are you pregnant? No. Don't you have to have sex to? Excuse me. Sorry, Jovo. I said, don't you have to have sex to get pregnant? I said, yeah. I'm like, well, that's not existing in my life. Thank God. I've been waiting for menopause since I started my period. Can't wait for menopause to start. It probably already started. Who knows? Maybe that's why I'm tired. That's what I'm thinking. It's 7 now. Alright, let me get the chat up. Two people messaged me last night. After I sang to the dog, I was going to get to them, and I forgot. streaming software. That was Saturday. That was a bum. Dud. Our Father in heaven, may your name be kept holy. May your kingdom come soon. May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this, give us today the food we need, and forgive us our sins as we have forgiven those who sin against us. And don't let us yield to temptation, but rescue us from the evil one. Jehovah, thank you for another beautiful day on your beautiful earth. And thank you for thank you for allowing us to wake up today. And thank you for what you did for us in the past, present, and what you will do for us in the future. Thank you for everything you do. Everything. I really appreciate it. Please help the people who has cancer and Tate who has a heart condition. That's Tate, Cindy Lee, Lisa, Shannon Doherty, King Charles, Princess Kate, Shannon, Isabella Strahan. Please help them and give them physical and mental strength to help fight their disease. Celine Dion is coming back to singing. Give her the physical and mental strength to help her beat the fight for her disease. Stiff person syndrome. Continue to help Jenny, Christina, and Tiffany. Continue to help Robin Taylor with all the medical needs for all those four ladies. Robin, Tiffany, Christina, and Jenny. And Robin's two grandsons who just lost their mother. Miss Diane's going into eternal rest. Please help her get there faster and just let her rest in peace until Jehovah comes. And help her daughters get find a place to stay. Arnie. These are honorable mentions. Arnie, Vicky and family, Carol and her mother. Please help them in the name of Jesus. In Jesus' name, amen. I'm already getting heavy-lidded. Yep, we're starting right from here. Exodus chapter 11.
Chapter 11.
Ooh, nice voice.
Then Jehovah said to Moses, "One more plague I am going to bring upon Pharaoh in Egypt. After that, he will send you away from here. When he does send you away, he will literally drive you out of here. Now tell the people that all the men and women should ask their neighbor for articles of silver and of gold." And Jehovah gave the people favor in the eyes of the Egyptians. Moreover, Moses himself had become highly esteemed in the land of Egypt, among Pharaoh's servants and among the people. Moses then said,
This is what Jehovah has said. About midnight I am going out into the midst of Egypt, and every firstborn in the land of Egypt will die. From the firstborn of Pharaoh, who is sitting on his throne, to the firstborn of the slave girl who is working at the handmill, and every firstborn of the livestock. Throughout all the land of Egypt, there will be a great outcry, such as has never occurred, nor will ever occur again. But not even a dog will bark at the Israelites, at the men or their livestock, so that you may know that Jehovah can make a distinction between the Egyptians and the Israelites. And all your servants will certainly come down to me and prostrate themselves to me, saying, Go, you and all the people who follow you. And after that, I will go out.
With that, he went out from Pharaoh in the heat of anger. Jehovah then said to Moses, Pharaoh will not listen to you, in order for my miracles to be multiplied in the land of Egypt. Moses and Aaron performed all these miracles before Pharaoh, but Jehovah allowed Pharaoh's heart to become obstinate, so that he did not send the Israelites away from his land. Chapter 12. Jehovah now said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, This month will be the beginning of the months for you. It will be the first of the months of the year for you. Speak to the entire assembly of Israel, saying, On the 10th day of this month, they should each take for themselves a sheep for their father's house, a sheep to a house. But if the household is too small for the sheep, they and their nearest neighbor should share it between themselves in their house, according to the number of people. When making the calculation, determine how much of the sheep each one will eat. Your sheep should be a sound, 1-year-old male. You may choose from the young rams or from the goats. You must care for it until the 14th day of this month, and the whole congregation of the assembly of Israel must slaughter it at twilight. They must take some of the blood and splash it on the 2 doorposts and the upper part of the doorway of the houses in which they eat it. They must eat the meat on this night. They should roast it over the fire and eat it along with unleavened bread and bitter greens. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled, cooked in water, but roast it over the fire, its head together with its shanks and its inner parts. You must not save any of it until morning, but any of it left over until morning you should burn with fire. And this is how you should eat it, with your belt fastened, sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you should eat it in a hurry. It is Jehovah's Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt on this night, and strike every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from man to beast. And I will execute judgment on all the gods of Egypt. I am Jehovah. The blood will serve as your sign on the houses where you are, and I will see the blood and pass over you, and the plague will not come on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. This day will serve as a memorial for you, and you must celebrate it as a festival to Jehovah throughout your generations. As a lasting statute, you should celebrate it. 7 days you are to eat unleavened bread. Yes, on the first day, you are to remove the sourdough from your houses, because anyone eating what is leavened from the first day down to the 7th, that person must be cut off from Israel. On the first day, you will hold a holy convention, and on the 7th day, another holy convention. No work is to be done on these days. Only what every person needs to eat, that alone may be prepared for you. You You must keep the festival of unleavened bread, for on this very day I will bring
Just to remind you, unleavened bread is bread made with no yeast. Okay.
multitudes out of the land of Egypt. And you must keep this day throughout your generations as a lasting statute. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, in the evening, you are to eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month, in the evening. No sourdough is to be found in your houses for 7 days, because if anyone eats what is leavened, whether he is a foreigner or a native of the land, that person must be cut off from the assembly of Israel. You should not eat anything leavened. In all your homes, you are to eat unleavened bread. Moses promptly called all the elders of Israel and said to them,
Go and select young animals for each of your families and slaughter the Passover sacrifice. Then you must dip a bunch of hyssop into the blood that is in a basin and strike the upper part of the doorway and the 2 doorposts with the blood. And none of you should go out of the entrance of his house until morning. Then when Jehovah passes through to plague the Egyptians and sees the blood on the upper part of the doorway and on the 2 doorposts, Jehovah will certainly pass over the entrance, and he will not allow the plague of death to enter into your houses. You must observe this event as a lasting regulation for you and your sons. And when you come into the land that Jehovah will give you, just as he has stated, you must keep this observance. And when your sons ask you, what does this observance mean to you? You must say, it is the sacrifice of the Passover to Jehovah, who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt when he plagued the Egyptians. But he spared our houses.
Then the people bowed low and prostrated themselves. So the Israelites went and did just as Jehovah had commanded Moses and Aaron. They did just so. Then at midnight, Jehovah struck down every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, who was sitting on his throne, to the firstborn of the captive, who was in the prison, and every firstborn of the animals. Pharaoh got up that night, along with all his servants and all the other Egyptians, and there was a great outcry among the Egyptians, because there was not a house where someone was not dead. At once he called Moses and Aaron by night and said,
Get up, get out from among my people, both you and the other Israelites. Go and serve Jehovah, just as you have said. Take also your flocks and your herds and go, just as you have said. But you must also bless me.
And the Egyptians began to urge the people to depart quickly out of the land, because, as they said, we are all as good as dead. So the people carried their flour dough before it was leavened, with their kneading troughs wrapped up in their clothing on their shoulder. The Israelites did what Moses had told them, and asked the Egyptians for articles of silver and of gold, as well as clothing. Jehovah gave the people favor in the eyes of the Egyptians, so that they gave them what they asked for, and they plundered the Egyptians. Then the Israelites departed from Ramesses for Succoth, about 600,000 men on foot, besides children. And a vast mixed company also went with them, as well as flocks and herds, a great number of livestock. They began to bake the dough that they brought from Egypt into round loaves of unleavened bread. It was not leavened, because they had been driven out of Egypt so suddenly that they had not prepared any provisions for themselves. The dwelling of the Israelites who had dwelled in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of the 430 years, on this very day, all the multitudes of Jehovah went out of the land of Egypt. It is a night on which they will celebrate Jehovah's bringing them out of the land of Egypt. This night is to be observed to Jehovah by all the people of Israel throughout their generations. Then Jehovah said to Moses and Aaron, "This is the statute of the Passover. No foreigner may eat of it. But if someone has a slave man who is purchased with money, you should circumcise him. Only then may he share in eating it. A settler and a hired worker may not eat of it. In one house it is to be eaten. You must not take any of the meat outside of the house, and you must not break any of its bones. All the assembly of Israel are to celebrate it. If a foreigner resides with you, and he wants to celebrate the Passover to Jehovah, every male of his must be circumcised. Then he may come near to celebrate it, and he will become like a native of the land. But no uncircumcised man may eat of it. One law will apply for the native and for the foreigner who is residing among you." So all the Israelites did just as Jehovah had commanded Moses and Aaron. They did just so. On this very day, Jehovah brought the Israelites along with their multitudes out of the land of Egypt. Chapter 13. Jehovah spoke further to Moses, saying, "Sanctify to me every firstborn male among the Israelites. The first male to be born, of both human and animal, belongs to me." Then Moses said to the people, "Remember this day on which you went out of Egypt, from the house of slavery, because with a mighty hand Jehovah brought you out of here. So nothing leavened may be eaten. You are going out on this day in the month of Abib. When Jehovah has brought you into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, which he swore to your forefathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, then you must keep this observance in this month. 7 days you are to eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there will be a festival to Jehovah. Unleavened bread is to be eaten for the 7 days, and nothing leavened is to be found with you, and no sourdough is to be found with you within all your territory. And you must tell your son on that day, 'It is because of what Jehovah did for me when I came out of Egypt.' And this will serve for you as a sign on your hand, and as a memorial on your forehead, so that Jehovah's law may be in your mouth. For with a mighty hand Jehovah brought you out of Egypt. You must keep this statute at its appointed time, from year to year. When Jehovah brings you into the land of the Canaanites, which he has sworn to you and to your forefathers to give to you, you must devote to Jehovah every firstborn male, as well as every male firstling of the livestock that you acquire. The males belong to Jehovah. Every firstling donkey you are to redeem with a sheep, and if you do not redeem it, then you must break its neck. And every firstborn male of your sons you are to redeem. In case your son should ask you later on, 'What does this mean?' then you should say to him, 'With a mighty hand Jehovah brought us out of Egypt, from the house of slavery. When Pharaoh stubbornly refused to send us away, Jehovah killed every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of man to the firstborn of beast. That is why I am sacrificing to Jehovah all the firstborn males, and I redeem every firstborn of my sons. This must serve as a sign on your hand and as a headband on your forehead, for with a mighty hand Jehovah brought us out of Egypt.' Now when Pharaoh sent the people away, God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, although it was near. For God said, 'The people may change their minds when they are confronted by war, and will return to Egypt.' So God made the people go around by the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea. But it was in battle formation that the Israelites went up out of the land of Egypt. Moses also took Joseph's bones with him, because Joseph had made the sons of Israel solemnly swear, God will not fail to turn his attention to you, and you must take my bones up out of here with you. They departed from Succoth and encamped at Etham, at the edge of the wilderness. Now Jehovah was going ahead of them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them along the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so that they could travel by day and by night. The pillar of cloud would not move away from before the people during the day, nor the pillar of fire at night. Chapter 14. Jehovah now said to Moses, Tell the Israelites that they should turn back and encamp before Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, within view of Baal-zephon. You are to encamp facing it by the sea. Then Pharaoh will say about the Israelites, They are wandering in confusion in the land. The wilderness is closed in on them. I will allow Pharaoh's heart to become obstinate, and he will chase after them, and I will glorify myself by means of Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will certainly know that I am Jehovah.
Sorry.
So that is what they did. Later, it was reported to the king of Egypt that the people had run away. Immediately, Pharaoh and his servants had a change of heart regarding the people, and they said,
Why did we do this and release Israel from serving as slaves for us?
So he made his war chariots ready, and he took his people with him. He took 600 chosen chariots, and all the other chariots of Egypt, with warriors on every one of them. Thus Jehovah allowed the heart of Pharaoh king of Egypt to become obstinate, and he chased after the Israelites, while the Israelites were going out with confidence. The Egyptians chased after them, and all the chariot horses of Pharaoh and his cavalrymen and his army were catching up with them, while they were camping by the sea, by Pi-hahiroth, facing Baal-zephon. When Pharaoh got closer, the Israelites raised their eyes and saw the Egyptians pursuing them. The Israelites became terrified and began to cry out to Jehovah. They said to Moses,
Is it because there are no burial places in Egypt that you have brought us here to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us by leading us out of Egypt?
Is this not the very thing we told you in Egypt when we said, Let us alone, so that we may serve the Egyptians?
No, my
For
God.
it is better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness.
Then Moses said to the people, Do not be afraid. Stand firm and see the salvation of Jehovah that he will perform for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you will never ever see again. Jehovah himself will fight for you, and you will keep silent. Jehovah now said to Moses, Why do you keep crying out to me? Tell the Israelites that they should break camp. As for you, lift up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, so that the Israelites may go through the midst of the sea on dry ground. As for me, I am allowing the hearts of the Egyptians to become obstinate, so that they will go in after them. Thus I will glorify myself by means of Pharaoh and all his army, his war chariots, and his cavalrymen. And the Egyptians will certainly know that I am Jehovah, when I glorify myself by means of Pharaoh, his war chariots, and his cavalrymen. Then the angel of the true God, who was going ahead of the camp of Israel, departed, and went to their rear. And the pillar of cloud that was in front of them moved to the rear and stood behind them. So it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. On the one side, it was a dark cloud. On the other side, it was lighting up the night. So the one camp did not come near the other camp all night long. Moses now stretched out his hand over the sea, And Jehovah drove the sea back with a strong east wind all night long, turning the sea basin into dry ground, and the waters divided. So the Israelites went through the midst of the sea on dry ground, while the waters formed a wall on their right hand and on their left. The Egyptians pursued them, and all Pharaoh's horses, his war chariots, and his cavalrymen began going after them into the midst of the sea. During the morning watch, Jehovah looked at the camp of the Egyptians from within the pillar of fire and cloud, and he threw the camp of the Egyptians into confusion. He kept taking wheels off their chariots, so that they were driving them with difficulty. And the Egyptians were saying,
"Let us flee from any contact with Israel, because Jehovah is fighting for them against the Egyptians."
Then Jehovah said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the waters may come back over the Egyptians, their war chariots, and their cavalrymen." Moses at once stretched out his hand over the sea, and as morning approached, the sea returned to its normal condition. As the Egyptians fled from it, Jehovah shook the Egyptians off into the midst of the sea. The returning waters covered the war chariots and the cavalrymen, and all of Pharaoh's army who had gone into the sea after them. Not so much as one among them was allowed to survive. But the Israelites walked on dry ground in the midst of the seabed, and the waters formed a wall on their right hand and on their left. Thus Jehovah saved Israel on that day from the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Israel also saw the great power that Jehovah wielded against the Egyptians, and the people began to fear Jehovah and to put faith in Jehovah and in his servant Moses. Chapter 15. At that time, Moses and the Israelites sang this song to Jehovah. "Let me sing to Jehovah, for he has become highly exalted. The horse and its rider he has hurled into the sea. My strength and my might is Jah, since he has become my salvation. This is my God, and I will praise him, my father's God, and I will exalt him. Jehovah is a powerful warrior. Jehovah is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his army he has cast into the sea, and his finest warriors have sunk into the Red Sea. The surging waters covered them. Down into the depths they sank like a stone. Your right hand, O Jehovah, is great in power. Your right hand, O Jehovah, can shatter an enemy. In your great majesty, you can throw down those who rise up against you. You send out your burning anger. It eats them up like stubble. By a breath from your nostrils, waters massed together. They stood still, holding back the floods. The surging waters congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue. I will overtake. I will divide spoil until I am satisfied. I will draw my sword. My hand will subdue them. You blew with your breath. The sea covered them. They sank like lead in majestic waters. Who among the gods is like you, O Jehovah? Who is like you, showing yourself mighty in holiness? The one to be feared with songs of praise, the one doing wonders. You stretched out your right hand, and the earth swallowed them up. In your loyal love, you have led the people whom you have redeemed. In your strength, you will guide them to your holy place of dwelling. Peoples must hear. They will shudder. Anguish will seize the inhabitants of Philistia. At that time, the sheiks of Edom will be terrified, and trembling will take hold of the mighty rulers of Moab. All the inhabitants of Canaan will be disheartened. Fear and dread will fall upon them. Because of the greatness of your arm, they will be as motionless as a stone, until your people pass by, O Jehovah. until the people whom you produced pass by. You will bring them and plant them in the mountain of your inheritance, the established place that you have prepared for yourself to inhabit, O Jehovah, a sanctuary, O Jehovah, that your hands have established. Jehovah will rule as king forever and ever. When Pharaoh's horses, with his war chariots and his cavalrymen, went into the sea, then walked on dry ground through the midst of the sea. Then Miriam the prophetess, Aaron's sister, took a tambourine in her hand.
I'll be right back. Sorry.
All the women followed her with tambourines and with dances. Miriam sang in response to the men.
Sing to Jehovah, for he has become highly exalted. The horse and its rider he has hurled into the sea.
Moses later led Israel away from the Red Sea, and they went out to the wilderness of Shur and marched on for 3 days in the wilderness, but they did not find water. They came to Marah, but they were not able to drink the water from Marah because it was bitter. That is why he named it Marah. So the people began to murmur against Moses, saying,
What are we to drink?
He cried out to Jehovah, and Jehovah directed him to a tree. When he threw it into the water became sweet. There he established for them a regulation and a case for judgment, and there he put them to the test. He said, If you will strictly listen to the voice of Jehovah your God, and will do what is right in his eyes, and will pay attention to his commandments, and keep all his regulations, I will not bring upon you any of the diseases that I brought upon the Egyptians. For I, Jehovah,
Hold on. What's happening? My phone's flashing.
am healing you. After that, they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees. So they camped there by the water. Chapter 16. After they departed from Elim, the entire assembly of the Israelites eventually came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after their departure from the land of Egypt. Then the entire assembly of the Israelites began to murmur against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. The Israelites kept saying to them,
If only we had died by Jehovah's hand in the land of Egypt, while we were sitting by the pots of meat, while we were eating bread to satisfaction. Now you have brought us out into this wilderness to put this whole congregation to death by famine.
Then Jehovah said to Moses, Here I am raining down bread for you from the heavens, and each of the people should go out to gather his amount day by day, so that I may put them to the test, to see whether they will walk in my law or not. But on the 6th day, when they prepare what they have gathered, it is to be double the amount that they pick up on each of the other days. So Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites,
In the evening you will certainly know that it is Jehovah who brought you out of the land of Egypt. In the morning you will see Jehovah's glory, for he has heard your murmurings against Jehovah. Who are we that you should murmur against us?
Moses continued, When Jehovah gives you meat to eat in the evening, and in the morning bread to satisfaction, you will see that Jehovah has heard your murmurings, that you are murmuring against him. But who are we? Your murmurings are not against us, but against Jehovah. Then Moses said to Aaron, "Tell the entire assembly of the Israelites, come near before Jehovah, for he has heard your murmurings." As soon as Aaron had spoken to the entire assembly of the Israelites, they turned and faced toward the wilderness. And look, Jehovah's glory appeared in the cloud. Jehovah spoke further to Moses, saying, "I have heard the murmurings of the Israelites. Tell them, at twilight you will eat meat, and in the morning you will be satisfied with bread, and you will certainly know that I am Jehovah your God." So that evening, quail came and covered the camp, and in the morning a layer of dew was all around the camp. When the layer of dew evaporated, there was a fine, flaky substance on the surface of the wilderness, as fine as frost on the ground. When the Israelites saw it, they began to say to one another, "What is it?" For they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, "It is the bread that Jehovah has given you for food. This is what Jehovah has commanded. Each one should gather it according to how much he can eat. You are to take an omer measure for each individual according to the number of the people that each of you has in his tent." The Israelites began to do so. They gathered it, some gathering much, and some gathering little. When they would measure it by the omer, the one who had gathered much had no surplus, and the one who had gathered little had no shortage. They each gathered it according to what they could eat. Then Moses said to them, "Nobody should leave any of it until the morning." But they did not listen to Moses. When some man left some of it until the morning, it bred worms and stank, and
Yeah.
Moses became indignant at them. They would pick it up morning by morning, each one according to what he could eat. When the sun got hot, it melted. On the sixth day, they picked up twice as much bread, 2 omer measures for each person. So all the chieftains of the assembly came and reported it to Moses. At that he said to them, "It is what Jehovah has said. Tomorrow there will be a complete rest, a holy Sabbath to Jehovah. Bake what you need to bake, and boil what you need to boil. Then save whatever is left over and keep it until the morning." So they saved it until the morning, just as Moses had commanded, and it did not stink, nor were there maggots in it. Then Moses said, "Eat it today, because today is a Sabbath to Jehovah. Today you will not find it on the ground. You will pick it up for 6 days, but on the 7th day, the Sabbath, there will be none." However, some of the people did go out to pick it up on the 7th day, but they found nothing. So Jehovah said to Moses, "How long will you refuse to keep my commandments and my laws? Take notice of the fact that Jehovah has given you the Sabbath. That is why he is giving you the bread for 2 days on the 6th day. Everyone must stay where he is. Nobody is to leave his locality on the 7th day." So the people observed the Sabbath on the 7th day. The house of Israel named the bread manna. It was white, like coriander seed, and its taste was like that of flat cakes with honey. Then Moses said, "This is what Jehovah has commanded. Fill an omer measure of it as something to be kept throughout your generations, so that they may see the bread that I gave you to eat in the wilderness, when I was bringing you out of the land of Egypt." So Moses said to Aaron, "Take a jar and put in it an omer measure of manna, and deposit it before Jehovah as something to be kept throughout your generations." Just as Jehovah commanded Moses, Aaron placed it before the testimony so that it might be preserved. The Israelites ate the manna for 40 years until they came to a land that was inhabited. They ate the manna until they came to the frontier of the land of Canaan. Now an omer is a tenth of an ephah measure. Chapter 17. The entire assembly of the Israelites departed from the wilderness of Sin by stages, according to the order of Jehovah, and they camped at Rephidim. But there was no water for the people to drink. So the people began quarreling with Moses and saying,
Give us water to drink.
But Moses said to them, Why are you quarreling with me? Why do you keep putting Jehovah to the test? But the people were very thirsty for water there, and they kept murmuring against Moses and saying,
Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to kill us and our sons and our livestock with thirst?
Finally, Moses cried out to Jehovah, What should I do with this people? A little longer, and they will stone me. Then Jehovah said to Moses, Go ahead of the people, and take with you some of the elders of Israel, and your rod with which you struck the Nile River. Take it in your hand, and walk on. Look, I will be standing before you there on the rock in Horeb. You must strike the rock, and water will come out of it, and the people will drink it. Moses did so before the eyes of the elders of Israel. So he named the place Massah and Meribah, because of the quarreling of the Israelites, and because they put Jehovah to the test by saying, Is Jehovah in our midst or not? Then the Amalekites came and fought against Israel in Rephidim. At this Moses said to Joshua, Choose men for us, and go out to fight against the Amalekites. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill, with the rod of the true God in my hand. Then Joshua did just as Moses told him, and he fought against the Amalekites. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. As long as Moses kept his hands lifted up, the Israelites prevailed. But as soon as he would let down his hands, the Amalekites prevailed. When the hands of Moses were heavy, they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. Then Aaron and Hur, one on each side, supported his hands, so that his hands remained steady until the sun set. Thus Joshua defeated Amalek and his people with a sword. Jehovah now said to Moses, Write this as a memorial in the book, and repeat it to Joshua. I will completely wipe out the memory of Amalek from under the heavens. Then Moses built an altar and named it Jehovah Nissi, saying, Because his hand is against the throne of Jah, Jehovah will have war with Amalek from generation to generation.
Oh,
Chapter 18.
I'm sorry, guys.
Now Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard about all that God had done for Moses and for his people Israel, how Jehovah had brought Israel out of Egypt. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, had taken in Zipporah, Moses' wife, when she was sent back to him, along with her 2 sons. One son was named Gershom, because Moses said, I have become a foreign resident in a foreign land. And the other was named Eliezer, because he said, The God of my father is my helper, who rescued me from Pharaoh's sword. So Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, along with Moses' sons and his wife, came to Moses into the wilderness where he was camping at the mountain of the true God. Then he sent word to Moses,
I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons.
At once Moses went out to meet his father-in-law, and he bowed down and kissed him. Each of them asked about the other's welfare, and then they went into the tent. Moses related to his father-in-law all that Jehovah had done to Pharaoh in Egypt in behalf of Israel, all the hardships that had befallen them along the way, and how Jehovah had delivered them. Jethro rejoiced over all the good that Jehovah had done for Israel by rescuing them from Egypt. Then Jethro said,
Praised be Jehovah, who rescued you from Egypt and from Pharaoh, and who rescued the people from under Egypt's control. Now I know that Jehovah is greater than all the other gods, because of what he did to those who acted arrogantly against his people.
Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and sacrifices for God. And Aaron and all the elders of Israel came to eat a meal with Moses' father-in-law before the true God. On the next day, Moses sat down as usual to serve as judge for the people. And the people kept standing before Moses from morning until evening. When Moses' father-in-law saw all that he was doing for the people, he said,
What is this that you are doing for the people? Why do you sit here alone with all the people standing before you from morning until evening?
Moses said to his father-in-law, Because the people keep coming to me to inquire of God. When a case arises, he comes to me, and I must judge between one person and the other. And I make known the decisions of the true God and his laws. Moses' father-in-law said to him,
What you are doing is not good. You will surely wear out, both you and this people who are with you, because this is too big a load for you, and you cannot carry it by yourself. Now listen to me. I will give you advice, and God will be with you. You serve as representative for the people before the true God, and you must bring the cases to the true God. You should warn them about what the regulations and the laws are, and make known to them the way in which they should walk, and the work that they should do. But you should select from the people capable men, fearing God, trustworthy men, hating dishonest profit, and appoint these over them as chiefs over thousands, chiefs over hundreds, chiefs over 50s, and chiefs over 10s. They should judge the people when cases arise. They will bring every difficult case to you, but every minor case they will decide. Make it easier for yourself by letting them share the load along with you. If you do this, and God so commands you, you will be able to stand the strain, and everyone will go home satisfied.
Moses immediately listened to his father-in-law and did all that he had said. Moses chose capable men out of all Israel and appointed them heads over the people, as chiefs of thousands, chiefs of hundreds, chiefs of 50s, and chiefs of 10s. So they judged the people when cases arose. A difficult case they would bring to Moses, but every minor case they would judge. After that, Moses saw his father-in-law off, and he went his way to his land. Chapter 19. In the 3rd month after the Israelites went out of the land of Egypt, on the same day they came to the wilderness of Sinai. They pulled away from Rephidim and came to the wilderness of Sinai, and camped in the wilderness. Israel camped there in front of the mountain. Then Moses went up to the true God, and Jehovah called to him from the mountain, saying, "This is what you are to say to the house of Jacob, and to tell the Israelites. You have seen for yourselves what I did to the Egyptians, in order to carry you on wings of eagles, and bring you to myself. Now, if you will strictly obey my voice and keep my covenant, you will certainly become my special property out of all peoples, for the whole earth belongs to me. You will become to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you are to say to the Israelites." So Moses went and summoned the elders of the people and declared to them all these words that Jehovah had commanded him. After that, all the people answered unanimously,
All that Jehovah has spoken, we are willing to do.
Moses immediately took the people's response to Jehovah. And Jehovah said to Moses, "Look, I am coming to you in a dark cloud, so that the people may hear when I speak with you, and so that they may always put faith in you as well." Then Moses reported the words of the people to Jehovah. Then Jehovah said to Moses,
Yeah, blow my nose and I'm gonna mute it so you guys don't hear it. There you go.
"Go to the people and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and they must wash their clothing. And they must be ready for the third day, because on the third day Jehovah will come down upon Mount Sinai before the eyes of all the people. You must set boundaries for the people all around it, and tell them, 'Beware of going up to the mountain or touching its border. Anybody touching the mountain will surely be put to death. No hand is to touch him, but he will either be stoned or be shot through. Whether beast or man, he will not live. But at the sound of the ram's horn, they may come up to the mountain.' Then Moses went down from the mountain to the people, and he began to sanctify the people, and they washed their clothing. He said to the people, 'Get ready for the third day. Abstain from sexual relations.' On the morning of the third day, there was thunder and lightning, and there was a heavy cloud on the mountain, and a very loud sound of a horn. And all the people in the camp began to tremble. Moses now brought the people out of the camp to meet the true God, and they took their place at the base of the mountain. Mount Sinai smoked all over, because Jehovah came down upon it in fire, and its smoke was rising like the smoke of a kiln, and the whole mountain was trembling violently. As the sound of the horn grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and the voice of the true God answered him. So Jehovah came down upon Mount Sinai, to the top of the mountain. Then Jehovah called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. Jehovah now said to Moses, "Go down and warn the people not to try to force their way through to look at Jehovah, or many of them will perish. And let the priests who regularly come near to Jehovah sanctify themselves, so that Jehovah may not strike them." Moses then said to Jehovah, "The people are not able to come up to Mount Sinai, because you already warned us, saying, Set boundaries around the mountain and make it sacred. However, Jehovah said to him, Go, descend, and come back up, you and Aaron with you.
You're
But
gonna
do
have to
not
wait,
let
Ivy.
the priests and the people force their way through to come up to Jehovah, so that he may not strike them. So Moses descended to the people and told them. Chapter 20. Then God spoke all these words. I am Jehovah your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery.
Last one, guys.
You must not have any other gods besides me. You must not make for yourself a carved image, or a form like anything that is in the heavens above, or on the earth below, or in the waters under the earth. You must not bow down to them, nor be enticed to serve them. For I, Jehovah your God, am a God who requires exclusive devotion, bringing punishment for the error of fathers upon sons, upon the third generation, and upon the fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing loyal love to the 1000th generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. You must not take up the name of Jehovah your God in a worthless way, for Jehovah will not leave unpunished the one who takes up his name in a worthless way. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it sacred. You are to labor and do all your work for 6 days, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to Jehovah your God. You must not do any work, neither you nor your son nor your daughter, nor your slave man nor your slave girl, nor your domestic animal, nor your foreign resident who is inside your settlements. For in 6 days Jehovah made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and he began to rest on the 7th day. That is why Jehovah blessed the Sabbath day and made it sacred. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live a long time in the land that Jehovah your God is giving you. You must not murder. You must not commit adultery. You must not steal. You must not testify falsely when you are a witness against your fellow man. You must not desire your fellow man's house.
You have to
You
wait.
must not desire your fellow man's wife, nor his slave man, nor his slave girl, nor his bull, nor his donkey, nor anything that belongs to your fellow man. Now all the people were witnessing the thunder and lightning, the sound of the horn, and the mountain smoking, and seeing this made them tremble and stand at a distance. So they said to Moses,
You speak with us, and we will listen. But do not let God speak with us, for fear that we will die.
So Moses said to the people, Do not be afraid, for the true God has come to put you to the test, in order that the fear of him may continue with you, so that you may not sin. So the people kept standing at a distance, but Moses went near to the dark cloud where the true God was. Then Jehovah said to Moses, This is what you are to say to the Israelites. You have seen for yourselves that I spoke with you from heaven. You must not make gods of silver alongside me, and you must not make gods of gold for yourselves. An altar of earth you are to make for me, and you will sacrifice on it your burnt offerings, your communion sacrifices, your flock, and your herd. In every place where I cause my name to be remembered, I will come to you, and I will bless you. If you make an altar of stones for me, you must not build it using stones cut with tools. For if you do use your chisel on it, you will profane it. And you must not go up by steps to my altar, that your private parts may not be exposed upon it.
And that is it for today. I will see you later on for coloring. I got a mandala I need to finish coloring. And I'll see you later. Love, don't judge. Peace out.